Good morning, folks. This is Deb, and I am back. And I'm back to tell you what I'm worried about. You know what I'm worried about more than Joe Biden's debate performance and more than which slug Donald Trump will choose for his running mate? I'm worried about voter apathy. And it's a real concern because in the world, we are 31st in voter turnout. And that should be an embarrassment to every American citizen. You know, I can't sit here and spend all kinds of time giving you a lesson on voting rights in this country and what people endured, but people died, okay? During Mississippi Freedom Summer, civil rights workers were murdered down south. Houses were bombed, okay? Churches were bombed. People were arrested. This is not just your right. Voting is your civic duty. I can't give you a history lesson, but there will be a bunch of stuff in the body of this video that you can read so you can understand the history of voting in America and how women struggled for their right to vote. And now we have a North Carolina governor candidate who is openly stating he wants to go back to a time when women couldn't vote. And if you don't think that that's in the plan for Project 2025, you're on another ship, okay? So let's talk about our habits, particularly Democratic Party voters, because I really don't care about the Republicans at all, okay? In 2022, we stopped the big red tide. I got it, okay? Be proud of that. But you know what? Giving up the majority doesn't have to be a preordained thing every election cycle. It usually happens because of low voter turnout. It's just that the media doesn't tell you that until after the fact, okay? So in 2022, after we got a full exposure to Donald Trump for 6 years, lived under his failed first 4-year regime, watched him call his minions down to Washington to overthrow the government right in front of your face because they filmed themselves doing it. 5 people died in that insurrection. After all of that, the Democratic voters could only muster 52% at the polls at the midterms. Well, you know something, folks? That's how we lost the House. And you know what? We had a 9-seat lead. Should never have happened. Imagine what could have happened if we came out at 60%. We could have kept the House. We may have expanded the Senate a little bit. At 65%, we could have done some real damage. And we'd actually be making progress today. Instead of watching the House give the orange jackaloon everything he wants, because that's really all they've done for 2 years. Whatever bills they have passed are bills that are going nowhere. They are bills that oppress people, like the federal version of the Don't Say Gay law. They passed that. And thinking that the Senate, Republican Senate, is any better is a misnomer, because the House actually passed the Right to Contraception Act just recently, and the Senate killed it. The GOP in the Senate killed it. And you know what? I have absolutely no trouble believing that was all planned. They're not your friend, ladies. So let's talk about reality here. We can vote in this country, but they're going to take that away from you if Donald Trump is put in office, because there will not be a 2028 election. In fact, I'm questioning whether there would even be a 2026 election for the House if Donald Trump wins in 2024. So let's talk about numbers, because this isn't rocket science. This is basic math. At 55%, if that's what the Democrats can muster in November, we're going to lose this election. Donald Trump will be president. We will not get the House back, and we will lose the Senate. That's a given, okay? And then our nightmare begins. We won't be worried about the war half a world away. We won't be worried about the economy. We won't be worried about climate change. We'll be scrambling for our lives under anti-democratic rule, because Donald Trump intends to get rid of every civil servant and replace them with a political appointee. That is in Project 2025 also, and that will ensure that he has full control of this nation. There will not be another election. He has stated that on his little tirades as he goes around the country talking to his brain dead supporters. You're not brain dead, so wake up, okay? If we come out at 55%, we are going to lose. If we come out at 60%, the Democrats will win. But maybe we won't get a Democratic Party majority in the Senate enough to make real change. Because if they still have enough people to block bills, they will do so. At 65%, we win in a landslide and things get better. That's what happened in 2008 when Barack Obama won. But then again, 2 years later, when we had to defend the House, the voting level went anemic again for the Democrats, and we lost that. We can't get up ahead of steam doing that. We can't make any real change that's lasting doing that. If we come out at 70%, we do some serious damage to the Republican Party. And quite frankly, that's what has to happen, because this party cannot be allowed to survive as it is, because they will continue to come back again and again. So be prepared. If we do everything right in November and we come out at 70%, we're going to have to defend the House seats again 2 years later. And we can't fall back into that bad habit of low voter turnout, because we did it already 2 years earlier. You know, that old John F. Kennedy thing that everybody loves. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, you know what? Voting is the bare minimum. The bare minimum. It requires you to register and then show up at the polls. 2 years, 4 years. And if you live in a state where people are still rational, like Massachusetts, I don't even have to leave my house. I've been voting by mail for a while now. My kids vote by mail here. And they do vote. So let me leave you with one thing that Barack Obama said that he is absolutely right about. If Democratic Party voters would come out and vote at 90% every election, we'd never have to worry about the billionaires or the GOP. So understand this. It is not just your right. It is your civic duty. At 55%, we are not going to save democracy. We cannot blow this, folks. We cannot blow this. Regardless of what happens with the Democratic Party ticket, whether it's Joe Biden or whether it's not, his debate performance isn't an excuse to not show up to vote. Joe Biden has been doing the job. If he is on the ballot, he needs to be voted in, because he has been in office for almost 4 years now, delivering for the American people under some very difficult circumstances. And if it's somebody else, we need to rally behind them and make sure they win. We cannot lose this election. I'll talk to you all later.